Hey everyone, it's Zach Beck. Life came to a screeching halt many months ago due to the pandemic. Businesses were forced to close, people were required to stay at home, and ultimately people suffered greatly from a physical perspective, from a social perspective, and also from a financial perspective, as the economy was struck significantly by people's inability to go out and spend as though they were doing prior to the pandemic. So what I want to do in this video is talk about the strategies we should employ right now as we're preparing to enter into a somewhat post-pandemic economy. As restrictions and regulations are beginning to be lifted, people are able to go out and about a bit more by taking necessary precautions, but ultimately we're moving forward in a direction that hopefully will lead to some semblance of normalcy in all of our lives. So what I want to do is share strategies that you can use right now that will help prepare you and position you to achieve your financial goals once we enter a new stage of normalcy after this pandemic. So let's jump into it right now. The first thing we should do in preparing for a post-pandemic economy is to reassess our current situation. Now, when the crisis first struck, many went into survival mode, meaning that they maintained your basic needs, such as shelter, food, transportation, and utilities. But you also might have done other things. You might have canceled certain accounts. You might have not been able to go on a vacation and do certain things. So now we're entering into a new phase where your situation is going to be different. Perhaps your job is a bit different. Perhaps your income stream is a bit different. So right now it's to reassess where you stand so that way you know positioning yourself right now how you can move forward financially. Depending upon where you are right now is really critical at this moment. Perhaps you lost your job, and if that is the case, I am greatly sorry that that has happened to you. Now is the time to really focus on obtaining new employment, developing new income streams, so that way you can start moving forward on your financial goals. On the flip side of that, let's say that you currently still have your job, whether you're able to work remotely or things are able for you to be able to go back and physically work in the office or in your workplace, whatever it is for yourself. Now you might be able to say, okay, I can continue moving forward on my financial objectives, whether that is paying down debt, saving up for an emergency fund, trying to position yourself so that you can invest long-term into index funds, and so your 401k and your Roth IRA are moving forward, whatever it is for you. Right now, you really want to assess what your situation is as you're entering into this new stage of the pandemic. On that note, I believe there are three elements of this we should be assessing with our current situation. One, make sure that your income is stable right now. Like I previously said, depending upon your job situation right now, you'll have to position yourself and strategize to be able to either pursue new employment or make sure that you're stabilizing your current employment. Secondly, you want to remember that facts overcome fear. This is a very trying situation right now. Whether or not you lost your job, you're dealing with some health issues related to this, or just the overall stress of this new economic environment we're entering in. Remember, facts always overcome fear. So if you stay fact-focused, that'll allow you to make wise decisions that are based on factual information as opposed to our emotions. And in addition to that, before you emerge from this financial quarantine, make sure that you're caught up on all of your bills. Make sure that you're not accruing additional debt. Make sure that you're moving forward on sound financial footing so as you enter into this new stage of this cycle, you're going to be able to continue to pursue forward and make sure you're achieving your financial goals. The second thing we should do in a post-pandemic economy is to revisit our monthly budget. There is no doubt it has been a weird last few months, and that could have affected your budget in many ways. Once again, you might have lost income stream. Perhaps you weren't spending money on certain things, but spending more money on other things. Maybe your Netflix account or doing things online or whatever it is for you. But right now, you really want to assess where your monthly budget is, and as you revisit that, identify where you can cut back, save money, and place money into areas that actually are going to bring value to your life. When it comes to budgeting, there are a few tools I personally like to use. One is Mint, and another one is called Every Dollar. Now, whatever you use, it doesn't really matter to me. What I would just say is if you have something that is simple, that is easy to follow, and easy to categorize your expenses, I think that is the best thing that you can do. Because if you set up a budget, it just gives you the framework for you to move forward on. If you don't have a plan, it's easy for finances to go into areas that are discretionary, or you might be more inclined to make impulse decisions. But if you set up a budget right now, that's going to position yourself very intentionally. So a post-pandemic, you're not just going to go and spend a bunch of money now since you weren't able to do previously. You can kind of maintain your overall objective and move forward on your bigger goals, whether that is purchasing a home, buying a car, starting something new like a new business, maybe going on a vacation, whatever it is for you. Now you can move forward on those if you have your budget set up properly. And as you revisit right now, that's probably a very wise thing for you to do since things have been so strange over the last few months. The third thing you want to do is continue moving forward on your financial goals. So let's say you're in debt right now and you're trying to get out of debt. Try and make sure that you're doing everything you can to tackle that aggressively. There are two methods you can employ when it comes to tackling your debt. The first is called the debt snowball method. That is where you go after your lowest balance first, then you pay that debt off completely. Then you move up to your next highest balance and pay that off. Then you continue going until you're at your highest balance of debt and pay that off completely. Whatever you want to do, however you want to approach it, the most important thing is that you go after it. Then you have the debt avalanche method, which is a little bit different. This is where you go after your highest interest debt first, pay that off, and then work your way down. So either way, I think that is an important objective for all of us to pursue, because once you have debt removed off of your shoulders and it's no longer a part of your financial life, it just provides you so much more freedom, so much more security, knowing that you're not enslaved to someone else. You don't have to have your money going to a credit card company or to Toyota Financial or any of these other groups that are out there that just want to take your monthly money and take that away from your paycheck. Now you can put your money more strategically into other areas. And on that note, the next step you want to do after you've paid off all of your debt is to really focus on establishing an emergency fund. And I think it's really critical for all of us to have between 3 to 6 months of all of our living expenses established right now. You might have actually exhausted your emergency fund during these last number of months, and I'm so sorry if you had to tap into that. But once again, if you did have that, you know the value and importance of having that money ready and available in the midst of a very challenging time. So do what you can to set aside that money, get it established, that way you have 3 to 6 months of your living expenses established right now. Then, once you have those two things really moving forward, what I would strongly encourage you to do is focus on investing your money into strategic tax-advantaged accounts into areas that you might understand, such as index funds. For example, let's say you want to use a Roth IRA or a 401k. Either vehicle works very well. I've actually done videos on both of those particular investment accounts. I will post links to the descriptions of both of those in this video for your reference and for your knowledge. But most importantly is that if you're investing for long-term, say for your ultimate retirement, utilizing those two accounts is very beneficial, because if you invest into a Roth IRA, you're doing that post-tax, meaning that your money grows tax-free over the course of your investing cycle until you reach the age of 59 and a half, when you can actually take the money out. The money continues to grow tax-free though. As it pertains to the 401k, that's actually a pre-tax approach. So you put your money directly out of your paycheck into that account, and that allows you to have the money grow over time. Then you pay taxes when you actually withdraw the money. Now, one thing to know is that the Roth IRA and the 401k are not the investments themselves. They are simply the account, more like a vehicle to get into the stock market. And once you do that, what I like to do is invest into what are called index funds, which are simply diversified funds that track usually the overall stock market, such as the S&P 500 or the total stock market index. There are plenty of them for you to choose, but my encouragement is, instead of trying to pick and choose individual stocks that are going to be up one day, down another day, just ask Tesla owners right now, you're going to find that that kind of risk and volatility can be beneficial for some, but if you're just wanting to have more of a passive approach to your investing strategy, that is something I would strongly consider, because over the track record, over the long haul, you're generally going to yield somewhere between 5 to 8% on an annual basis when it comes to investing into index funds, and that is based off of the historical track record of the stock market as a whole. And when you compound that over time, and when you have your dividends reinvested and you adjust it for inflation, if you start investing now, say if you're at your earlier stage of your career in your 20s or 30s, you could easily be a millionaire by the time you're in your 60s. Now, for those of you who might want to make more money more quickly, I totally understand that and I totally get it, but I would still recommend investing into index funds and then diversifying your portfolio, maybe into individual stocks, into real estate, or into yourself by creating your own business. But all that to say, you cannot pursue those objectives if you are in debt and if you don't have your emergency fund set, because those things are so critical to having the pillars and foundation established. And now that we're entering into maybe a bit more of a normal cycle of financial health, this is going to allow you to pursue those objectives. The fourth thing you want to do in preparing for a post-pandemic economy is to make sure that you still keep enough cash on hand. And I believe this is important in addition to your emergency fund, just for the peace of mind. And that's because, as we're seeing right now, the stock market is going to be all over the place. We've seen record highs in the S&P 500. We've also seen record lows as far as in-day trading. So what I want to say is that you do not want to have your emotions tied to where the stock market is. If you have a buy and hold strategy that is intended for the long term, like I just previously mentioned, where you're going through your Roth IRA, through your 401k, into index funds over the long haul, you're fine. Don't worry about checking that and freaking out about that if the economy starts to go up and down. But if you have a little extra cash on hand, that'll really position yourself more so from a psychological perspective and really an emotional perspective to allow you to remain calm in case something happens. Because today it was a pandemic. Tomorrow it might be something completely different. So all that to say, you just want to be positioning yourself in a manner that allows you to navigate whatever circumstance comes your direction so that way you can still achieve your financial goals. With all that being said, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. If you wouldn't mind, please like the video. That would mean a lot to myself personally. Help push this video to other people who might need to hear it. As we've all gone through the pandemic, this is going to be all the more important for us to have a strategy going into the next stage when we actually exit the pandemic. So I hope that this information can get out to people who need to hear it. In addition, if you wouldn't mind, please comment on the video. Feel free to ask me any questions that you have. I'd love to interact with you, get to know you, and do any research on your behalf so that way you can achieve your financial goals. And on that note, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. That would mean a lot to myself personally, as I do everything I can to create content that makes a positive impact in your life by encouraging you and myself to lead lives of meaning and purpose, all while maintaining balance and moderation. And lastly, if you do subscribe to the channel, please tap the notification bell. That will notify you every time I post a video, which I do on a weekly basis. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching the video today. I look forward to talking to you next time. Have a great day.